Commander wasn't better back then. I know I'm ripping the band-aid off way too early here, but I need to be honest here. I'm hoping to use this video to articulate why you might be feeling that way. In a world where there's just more options, more legendaries, and more ways to solve the problems that you come across on the battlefield, why is it that you feel downtrodden? Why is it that you feel like the Commander format isn't for you, or it's ruining Magic the Gathering as a whole? At its face, it's promoting the Gathering and a lot of big moments, which can be seen as the magic of it all. So it really does resemble the game fully in its name. Now, of course, before we get into the thoughts themselves, I really need y'all's opinion below. Before you watch the whole video, let me know in the comment section down below, why do you not like Commander? And if you like Commander, why do you like it? And maybe if your thoughts change throughout the video, edit the response and then let me know how you feel, because I'd love to have a discussion about why you feel this 100 card singleton format is really the downfall of Magic the Gathering. I'm going to use this arbitrary Reddit post here. It isn't really the centralizing topic, but it's a good way to start, highlighting some points that they're specifically bringing up. The current state of Commander, I have the feeling that Commander games get very cluttered nowadays. It might be the newer Commanders, which generally offer a bit more value than 5 years ago, but most games end up in large board states on turn 6. Still casual Commander, you need combat damage to win, but you can't attack because there's good blockers. You know, they feel like they have to wait until the first board wipe. They're using Nahiri's, their Nahiri equipment deck, and they feel like they couldn't get out and about without having the proper sword to get like protection from various parts of the board state. And so they're asking how people feel about this. And so what I think this post highlights is something, so common thread lines that we see in a lot of Commander discourse, talking about battle cruiser magic, where people are building out these big boards that don't really do anything, and they're building all these resources and they're waiting to do anything. And it's all about combat, because that's real magic. That's magic as Richard Garfield intended. None of this dark ritual into necro dominance, into draw my whole deck and combo off, and none of that nonsense at all. That's not Magic the Gathering for some reason. But it's really about building out these massive board states, blocking, combat, math, all that stuff, and how certain commanders feel like they have more value now. There's more word soup involved in them, and how commanders back then felt a little bit simpler. They're not as complicated now. There's not multiple angles, and there aren't millions of commanders for you to keep track of. And so the idea that you need to board wipe to get rid of this stuff, that you could board wipe or you need to build your way out of it. Specifically in equipment deck though, you have the options to do so if you're able to draw through. So again, starting some of that idea of like, some of the commanders were, Commander might have been better back then, but there are some problems now with the homogeneity of the format. It feels like some of these decks are playing out the same way. They're just building out these big boards and not attacking. Now, this next Reddit thread, again, notably, it is from Free Magic. I get it. This could be a troll post. This could be a make fun of post. I'm not here to get into it. Again, it's just about common thread lines, okay? 9 months ago, Commander EDH is the absolute worst thing to happen to MTG. They're just a big standard and MTG guy or modern guy. But Commander is the absolute worst thing to happen in this game. It's overrated. The command zone doesn't add anything, and Wizards of the Coast is focusing more on Commander than what they call important formats like Standard and Modern. And now, again, there are some troll elements to this. The whole idea that Modern is the last great constructed format, but even now it's had that legacy feel where so many years and years, decades of Magic cards are in the format that it's really hard to get into. And with that, it has that legacy feel of being oppressive with its price point. And with the constant churn of deck lists, it's also harder to recommend now with the whole Modern Horizon sets, how there is a soft rotation of the format. But even now, all constructed formats feel like they might go through a soft rotation, because with Universes Beyond coming out as well, now being standard, legal, and beyond, the Pioneer format is going to be feeling that as well, because Pioneer was that last great bastion, how you didn't need to play with SpongeBob defending against Kylo Ren and Iron Man, which we're going to get into the Cardboard Crack comic about that in a second as well. But now that format is going to have some rotation, because you want to be able to push the Universes Beyond sets that you have, because you signed a deal with them, hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't know, however much that licensing deal was, and you need to sell product, and you need to have great big bombastic cards that get people in there. But with those constructed formats, we've seen that even with the Modern Horizons 3 set that creates this rotation, there was a Commander product attached to it. There was a way to draw Commander players in and make it so everything is Commander. However, every product is important for you as a Magic player, and that's what they've done with the Universes Beyond set. So it's not just about how Commander is running and everything. It might actually just be external forces. It might just be late stage capitalism. But hey, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. Commander, the universal sentiment being that it's ruining constructed, what, you know, Magic should be in many ways. How Magic is 60 card and 100 card is casual. That's not what we should be focusing on. That's not what we should be selling to, even though Commander in many ways proliferates that idea of Magic through and through, where it has big moments, crazy memorable situations with your friends, which can be seen as Magic. And the gathering part is that social aspect of 4 to 5 player, sometimes even 3 player games of Commander, where a lot of these gatherings happen at LGSs, at the kitchen table, comfortable places, homey places, places that you recognize, safe spaces for many people, and unfortunately not safe for others, but that's a whole different discussion, but a common ground for people to come through and enjoy the hobbies that they love. And so the whole death of third places thing is something different, how LGS is now might be charging a cost for you to play Commander, and the whole death of the LGS idea with only Commander players and constructed events not firing. It's a multifaceted thing, right? Like Modern is in a very weird place right now with, you know, as the recording of this video, with the One Ring being everywhere. Legacy, I think, is actually really fun getting into because of the interactions and the gameplay that you have. But for many astute Legacy players out there would say that it's also in a bad place with, you know, Psychic Frog everywhere. Pioneer's also a weird place. Like Pioneer's a format where like there's cards in that format that should have been banned like years ago, but are still legal in the format. It's a very weird format. I can't get into it personally, but Standard also about to go through a big revolution with Foundations. A lot of churn happening in Magic the Gathering. So why are y'all mad at Commander? Well, you know, I think like people, instead of looking at why they're mad at Commander, look to solve other things, right? So this is an article, if I kind of scroll up, from MTG Cards Realm called PrEDH, the format that is conquering the hearts of veteran Commander players. That seems like Commander players that have been around for a very long time. So the format, who aims at delivering a feeling of Commander before 2011, is same as regular Commander, but the only difference is the only cards allowed to play are the ones released before the recognition by Wizards of the Coast that the last legal set is New Phyrexia. By taking the current ban list into account, the 45 banned cards list, only 8 were printed at the birth of Commander as a recognized format with its own products. The credits creation of PrEDH format go to Brian David Marshall. Now, what I will say about PrEDH, right? This isn't anything against Brian David Marshall, right? This is just PrEDH, that being the solution, right? The idea that nostalgia sells, going back, and I see this in analogs in gaming right now, right? Apex Legends is going back to kind of like an original season where they go back to their original characters and everything. And even now, as an Overwatch player, Overwatch Classic just got announced yesterday. The whole idea that, again, everything is a sequel or a remake right now. There's no original ideas. It's just take what already works and try and reinvent the formula of it, but create recognizability so that people can come in, because there's so many IPs and so many pieces of media out there that in order to get people in, you need to create something recognizable, and that's what Universes Beyond sets to do. And it's kind of what PrEDH is setting to do, because EDH has become such this bog of new sets, new cards, new mechanics, and commanders that do everything, ward and vigilance and trample and draw and all this stuff. Because they do everything, let's go back to a simpler time. A time that you might miss. How so many people out there say that, you know, another gaming reference is that Modern Warfare 2, the original Modern Warfare 2, was one of the best Call of Duties out there, when objectively it's not. It's one of the most broken, unbalanced Call of Duties out there, and that's someone who played it in its prime. Hundreds of thousands of hours in that game. And I can tell you that game was butt compared to games right now, because it was not balanced. It's just, we didn't have this whole idea of like competitiveness. People didn't have hyper solutions to things. We didn't have aggregate websites and YouTube videos telling you how to optimize your Magic deck or the best loadout in Call of Duty. We didn't have that back then, not at the same volume that we do now. And things are being solved at such a fast pace. When commanders come out, we have creators on Twitter talking about already like, this is how I'd build this. Here's the best cards. Here's a deck list. Like hours after, we have the perfect optimized deck list for what you need for this commander. Heck, you know, as soon as a card is super powerful, people are already putting it into their CEDH decks. Things are being solved at a much faster rate than they were back then. So this feeling that you have back then may not necessarily be the feeling of the cards that were legal back then, but a change of pace as to how things are done. So, but let's explore PrEDH, right? The idea is that before the first Commander product in 2011, you go to New Phyrexia and you play with those cards. A feeling of when old Commander was around, the magic that was lost. Okay. Quick Scryfall search. I love Scryfall for this, by the way. Literally, Scryfall shout out. Yo, if you want to hit me up for a sponsor, I love y'all's website. Okay, like, look at what I got. Anyway, just the searching mechanic on Scryfall is great. So, PrEDH, right? So, this is the number of monocolor commanders in PrEDH, right? PrEDH, 55 cards that include creature, legendary, and color is green. Cool. Okay. And so I should mention that the total amount of cards legal that are legendaries in PrEDH are 443. Total amount of legendaries. So we already started off with green at 55. 443 in total. I'm looking at monocolored cards. 62 are white. 53 are blue. 64 are black, legendaries again. And 55 are red. Now, in total, with that green amount, if we add it all together, 289. Thank you, Shutterstock, for this image. 289. I hope I did that math right. Commanders that are monocolored, legal in PrEDH. 289. Folks, the amount of legal commanders are 443. That's more than half of those legal commanders are monocolored. Are they good? I don't know. Let's find out. Two color commanders, right? I'm covering some of them right now. I'm covering Razia, Boros, Archangel. This 4 Boros commanders. Multicolor is a little tough, isn't it? There's 3 Izzet commanders. They're really powerful, aren't they? Joyride is an absolutely busted commander. When you think about commander back then, for my commander veterans right now, in the comment section, let me know, how busted would Joyride of the Gitu back then? Joyride was an insane commander. You did some crazy things by putting, like, you know, huge giant monstrosities of cards with suspend 4 on it. Niv Mizzet was just like a Izzet value engine that had so many great combos to it as well, like going infinite and all that stuff. It was like the representation of what Commander shouldn't be. It's not what Magic should be at the time. But the options weren't there. Folks, the monocolored options were limited, less than 100, less than 60 in a lot of cases. But the dual color and beyond, even less. You just didn't have great options. I'm cherry picking here. Some of these colors have slightly more, but like it's all less than 10. It's all less than 10. Commander didn't have more options back then. Commander wasn't a better format back then. You didn't have as many solutions to things back then. The whole idea that black can now remove enchantments is a frustrating thing in terms of a color pie break for a lot of people, but they've even acknowledged that as a color pie break for a lot of people, like blue gaining vigilance and all that stuff. Like, there are a lot of things that people are upset with in terms of lore connections and color pie breaks, but Wizards of the Coast have acknowledged that openly. What they haven't acknowledged is the fact that the lack of variety here. You don't have solutions that you had before. You couldn't do things that you can do now. The problems that you have with gameplay in CDH all have a solution. Land destruction, you have ways to make your permanents indestructible. You have great counter magic. You have great anti-land destruction. You have, again, great ways to stop the frustrating things that your opponents are doing. And then you, if you're playing the frustrating thing, that's a you problem. Are you mad that you now become the arch enemy because you're playing a prison deck? That's your fault. That's your fault. You need to play ways around stopping your opponent from stopping you. You need to play answers to those answers, or understand that when you're playing the mean deck, the one time your opponents let you play the mean deck, you're doing something mean. So of course you're going to get targeted. So you need to build your deck that much better, right? You need to be able to play around these things. You need to be less concerned about going all in on prison and slowing the game down to a halt. You need to be focused on the gathering and the magic, not the prison element of what you're doing. There's answers to everything that you're doing in current Commander. It was not better back then because we had less options. There were less commanders, less cards in general, and things were more homogenous, if anything. Colors just did singular things, right? Like it was like blue bounced, blue countered. There was some soft exile destroy in blue as well, but like largely the removal was in black and in white. You had paths, swords, black had like the murders and the doom blades and all that stuff. Red had the damage base removal. Green had some options, but you really were like splashing the other colors to gain a lot of that stuff. We didn't have the farewells in the format. We had Wrath of Gods. We had simple interaction. We didn't have cards that did everything. it was more limited and more homogenous in that sense. You had to pick a color to do something. And in many ways, people could see that as a problem now, right? I want to be able to feel limited. I want to feel like deck building is fun again. But that's a you problem again too. Because if there's options to do more now, there's options to do less. You could choose to do less. You could choose to pick, let's say you could choose to pick like Niv Mizzet as your commander. You know what? Let's go back. Let's pick something even simpler here. Let's say you picked Brionne Stout Arm, right? You had your fling deck. Now, let's say your theme was, instead of building a fling deck, I could build a deck with giants. It's giant tribal. I could build a deck with people with great beards, right? Because there's ways to, search that as well. Jor Kadim has a great like facial visor. I could play a deck with folks with great facial visors because there's so many great pieces of alt arts out there, new arts, different cards out there. Like, you can build different themed commander decks because you have more options to do so. There are more ways to be creative because there are more options. It doesn't limit creativity. You don't need to play the optimized deck list. There are options to do everything. You are willingly choosing to do the optimal thing. You need to untrain yourself. You are putting the constructed mindset into a format that isn't meant to do so, thereby ruining your experience in the game. Just saying. You're mad. But why are you mad? I want to go through two things here. Why I believe a lot of Commander players are upset, and what the actual problem is. So, firstly, data aggregate websites, EDH Rec. Now, look, I use EDH Rec all the time. This isn't, I'm not saying we need to take down EDH Rec. We don't need to do that. Great people behind this. But ultimately, there is a downside to things like this. As I was mentioning with content and data aggregate websites, you can just go onto these sites, top cards, and be like, oh wow, what are the top cards being played in Commander? Wow, okay, maybe I should really be playing Soul Ring, Arcane Signet. Oh, these are great green cards. I'm building a green deck. Yeah, maybe I'll just include all 5 of these. Nature's Lore. Yeah, a little bit of ramp seems pretty cheap. Okay, Assassin Trophy. Wow, yeah, destroys anything. Okay, yeah, Heroic Intervention has some protection. Yeah, there's a lot of board wipes, and I never thought about this, right? And so just cluing into the most commonly played things, and this is what the most optimized decks are doing. And there's an even further bias to this because the casual players aren't using this. You have to be a generally enfranchised player to take your commander deck, go on your computer, spend the time to make a deck list, submit it into EDH Rec or into, wherever it collects its data, and put your deck list up there to add to these numbers. You have to be a more enfranchised player to do so. So if you are an enfranchised player or someone who's becoming enfranchised, you are then going to be even more hooked on, more enfranchised by using these websites. You are now sucked in, to the vacuum that is Commander as a data aggregate format. And so therein lies a problem with these sites. It creates that homogeneity. It creates that false homogeneity, I should say, where people believe there is an optimized way to play Commander. This is the best way to play Commander. That's CEDH. If you're playing at a 6-7 level, I don't want to hear about no optimization. I don't want to hear about no, like, this is the best card. This is the best way to do that. No. You're playing this Commander as a Boros commander. I'm playing this commander as a Boros commander. We have vastly different options as to what could be optimized here. Yeah, we both could be playing Lightning Bolt. Yeah, we both could be playing Chaos Warp, Blasphemous Act. Yeah, we got those. We got some of the staples in there. Those staples have been around for a while. But there are other options. If I didn't want to play those, yeah, there are other options. I could even, if I've been playing in your playgroup for a while, and I know you'd be playing Blasphemous Act, Chaos Warp, and like all these other removal spells, I could choose not to, because then I could rely on you to be the person that answers that. And I could pre-politic my way into the game and be like, you know what? I know that person is going to have all the answers in the world. Why should I have answers? They're going to answer the problematic things. I'm just going to go about my board and try and answer some other things. I'm going to play other cards other than the Chaos Warp and the Blasphemous Act and see how they go. I'm going to choose other ramp spells other than Nature's Lore and Cultivate and see how that goes. I'm going to change around my converted mana cost to better suit my ramp, right? If I'm going to Rampant Growth and Farseek on turn 2, right? Then that means I want more 4-drops, because on turn 2, I'm going to play out a Rampant Growth Farseek, and then if I play a land drop on turn 3, I'm going to be at 4 mana. I'm going to play more 4-drops by that logic. If I have 3 CMC ramp, like more cultivates, then I'm going to be playing more 5-drops and stuff like that, or maybe more ways to ramp into 3, maybe more 1 mana ramp, so I can ramp into 3 a lot faster. So these are the type of things that like you can change around in your deck list to change the way that your games play out. You're just mad that everyone is doing this quote unquote optimized thing that ruins your Commander games right now. That's not necessarily the aggregate website's fault. The other reason you might be mad, as I was kind of referring to earlier, is the whole cardboard crack part of it. The universe is beyond part of this. I attack with SpongeBob. In response, I tap Kylo Ren, use Force Choke, then I Repulsor Blast with Iron Man. Elsa shoots Ice Shards at Iron Man. I tap the Whopper to give Iron Man +2/+2. I counter by going Sicko Mode with Travis Scott. What game are you playing? Magic the Gathering. What's hilarious is a lot of this is actually true. We're so close. Iron Man, SpongeBob just got announced. Y'all are mad that, you know, multiverse, that anything is possible. And I get it. For some of you, it may break your immersion, which ultimately I think is just a you problem. It's just a you problem. You can leave the game if you want. And again, I'm ripping the band-aid off, right? Because more people are going to be coming into this game. More people are going to play Magic the Gathering, more ideas, more deck building, more creativity is going to enter this game. And you leave because you can't deal with Mr. Krabs that's off the table from you. It's just a game piece. It could be named whatever. There are some ridiculous Magic cards out there that y'all don't care about. But when it's called SpongeBob, then it's a problem. There's jellyfish, there's oofs, there's aurochs, right? Like we had the whole idea of like, why are there so many humans in fantasy? Why aren't there more goblins and dragons? Like people have had a problem with Magic's lore for so long, right? Wizards of the Coast ungaying certain characters, right? Like Chandra and Nissa, taking away the woke timelines and all that stuff. Like, get out of here. So many of y'all have had a problem with like Teferi being a front-facing character now because he's a person of color. Like some of y'all just have nothing better to complain about. Really, like some of y'all really don't. And so when it comes to your immersion breaking, why is it that when you come to this game, you want a piece of separation? Why is it that a goblin and a dragon or a, you know, snake, crocodile, wizard, detective subtype is better to you than SpongeBob? Why do you need that separation? Why does that like really break down what it is for you? Is it a personal problem that you have? Is it actually the game that's bothering you? I don't think so. I don't think that's what's getting you mad. I think what's actually getting you mad is the current state of you. I think it might actually just be not the current state of Commander, but where you're at as a Magic player. I think many Magic players are disenfranchised because they have been left behind by capitalism. Folks, I just hope y'all understand that when it comes to being mad about something, right? It's not that your partner is being, you know, and this is all in a vacuum. This isn't about like, you know, abusive people or bad jobs or bad bosses. No. This is just in a vacuum. You know, it's not that your partner is constantly nagging you. It's not that you're, you know, constantly tired or you don't enjoy gaming the way it used to be. It's because you don't have the time because the things around you have taken time away from you, right? You have late stage capitalism hitting us all. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. When people chase you for ideas of you're not supporting this, you're not supporting that, but you're supporting other things as well. You're fighting a good fight in other ways, right? People talk about how, oh, you're not boycotting this person, you know, you're not boycotting this thing, but people still have, right now, I'm using this camera, I'm using my phone. We don't care about the things happening in mines across the world farming cobalt. We're not caring about the mistreatment of millions of people across the world creating goods for us in these like kind of good development farms for like large websites and all that stuff. Like we don't care about this stuff, but we care about how SpongeBob affects our game. All this stuff comes downstream to add more hours to our work, give us less time to sleep. Our food is worse for us, and we just have less time to enjoy the hobbies that we have. Third places are disappearing, and heck, first places are disappearing as well. A lot of people host less now because we're stuck in apartments that don't have room for all the people that we need coming into our lives. And our partners feel like they're nagging, but it's because we aren't spending the time to create the promise that we did when we came up, you know, when we decided to enter a relationship and we would choose to take care of the other person. We don't have the time anymore and we're tired. And we're mad at the wrong thing. We're taking it out on our partner. We're taking it out on the game. We're mad that Commander is ruining Magic. We're mad that SpongeBob is here. We're mad that, you know, Iron Man is in the format and I have to play this. That's not why you're mad. You're mad because you have a limited amount of time to play Magic the Gathering, to play Commander, and that time is being taken away from you by everything else. There's no way to stop that right now. A lot of you do have the option, actually. A lot of you are scared to make the choice to maybe enter a new job, move to a new city, to make all these changes. But ultimately, for a lot of you, I hope you can look outside of the game and realize that a lot of these issues that you have within the game are actually not the game itself. And there are a lot of parts of the game that are frustrating. There are a lot of high grab capitalism things that are happening in the game, with all the secret layer stuff happening as well, the whole direct to consumer model. And you can't necessarily blame Wizards of the Coast as an entity. The entity is operating under the rules of capitalism. It is creating large amounts of profit and trying to generate value for its users. That's just the basic thing that any business is going to do. That's what it is under capitalism. That is the dark reality that you have to work with. So if you want to stop all of this, then you have to work to stop all of this from within, right? And it's very hard to do so. It's very hard to untrain yourself from the doom scrolling and all this stuff, constantly looking through Twitter and TikTok and watching, the YouTube videos of the downfall of the problem with and all this stuff. And I probably might have titled this video that similar way. But ultimately, this might just be a more philosophical debate idea, but I want y'all to look inside and realize that a lot of the formats that you're playing and a lot of the interactions you're having are actually positive ones. They're positive experiences. You are going out to the LGS, you are going out, you're being social, you're being in front of people, you're meeting new people. We are social creatures, and this is very important for us to kind of take part in. And then once we come across these game pieces, we feel like we don't have enough time to learn the new cards and get accustomed to the new ways of play. And we get frustrated. We're just like, oh, if SpongeBob was in here, if only we could go back to a simpler time. It wasn't a simpler time. It was a time when you had more time. It's a time when you had more resources, less responsibilities. A lot of people here are just growing up. A lot of people that consume the content that are more enfranchised are just getting older and realize they have more responsibilities and less time to do so. That isn't a problem with Magic the Gathering. That's life. That is where we're at right now. We need to be able to fight the system from there within. We need to be able to care for each other. We need to be able to look after each other and call out the people that have crappy ideals, right? They like crappy, like really crappy political views and everything. And the whole idea of like people coming onto my channel and be like, I want this, I want to watch you to escape political views. Screw you. I'm a South Asian straight white male. Hold on. South Asian straight cisgendered male in Toronto, Ontario, a melting pot in North America. And being a person of color, being a minority, being a Muslim myself, actually, there are many things that I face, and thankfully I don't, because I'm in a really privileged position with where I went to school, where I am economically. I have a lot of privileges to me. But there's a lot of things that I experience that are the truth of the matter. I don't support Trump. And if you support Trump, I don't support you. I don't want to be friends with you. I don't want to be with you. And that's why, I'm calling those people out, because ultimately in line with this whole idea of, kind of being and being with people and letting people live, like the views you have relate to views that don't align with, my friends and family. A lot of the views that you support and the things that you support don't allow for the freedom of speech and the freedom of living of myself and the people around me. That's why I say that those are my political views. Those are my, like, as a basic person, I have a lot of privileges and I will speak my political views and I will speak my mind as to you believing in all this stuff doesn't really add to any of the, kind of current rhetoric around stopping capitalism and helping you enjoy the game and helping you enjoy your life more. Now, ultimately, this probably got away from itself. I think I probably started ranting a little too long, but I think just a lot of these thoughts that I've been having with a lot of things, I think people are directing their anger at the wrong thing. They've lost the plot. They've stopped caring for other people, and they've started taking it out on the game and immigrants or whatever it might be. What nonsensical thing people started pointing all this stuff at. It's not about that. It's about analyzing the world that the powers that be put us in, the rich elites and all that stuff, the great corporations, analyzing where we're stuck, and then looking at ways and gathering as a community to stop this, to fight this. How do we come together as a Magic the Gathering community to stop Wizards of the Coast from taking advantage of us? How do we come together as a community to stop, the hate around Commander as in the other formats? How do we promote the game in a positive way and try and beat down the things that we're upset at and not delve in them to the point that we're trying to create alternate formats that don't really solve anything? The problem isn't Commander. The problem isn't really you necessarily. The problem is everything else around us. The problem is capitalism.